Welcome everybody to QB Power Hour. Today is July 14th, 2016, and today's episode is how to value price, new QuickBooks Online setups, and ongoing QuickBooks Online services. The agenda for today, we'll talk briefly about QB Power Hour, we'll speak about the CPE process and ACE, and the topics for today is Mark Wickersham is our guest speaker. He's going to show us the process and how to onboard clients into QuickBooks Online and how to price it profitably. He's also going to show us how to set up value pricing for ongoing cloud-based accounting services, mostly for QuickBooks Online, of course. So about QB Power Hour, we are a webinar series, usually twice per month, Thursdays at 12 p.m. The next episode is going to be 7/28, this July 28th, Common Mistakes in QuickBooks Payroll. That course will be eligible for ACE, which is Advanced Continuing Education for Pro Advisors. Typically, we cover tips and tricks and advanced insights in QuickBooks. Most of the times, it's half QuickBooks Desktop, half QuickBooks Online. And every once in a while, like in today's episode, we'll have a special guest that will discuss a third-party app, practice management tips, industry-related topics. In the case of Mark, it would be kind of both. The actual primary sponsors for QB Power Hour are Michelle Long and myself, our businesses. We spend our time and our resources putting these things together. We do have third parties every once in a while, third-party developer speakers that may be showing off a product that's not necessarily QuickBooks itself or not necessarily connected to QuickBooks. And in a lot of cases, it does connect to QuickBooks, but most importantly, it must be useful and relevant to the QuickBooks Power users. We are not sponsored or associated with Intuit, although from time to time we also have Intuit guests to cover certain announcements. Michelle Long is our co-host. She's in the background answering questions. She's the owner for Long for Success in Kansas City, Missouri. She's an international speaker for Intuit. She's the author of 5 books. If you look her up in Amazon, and she's been recognized by many organizations as a top accountant and a top QuickBooks influencer in our profession. And also she's got the biggest QuickBooks LinkedIn group in the world with over 160,000 members. Myself, my name is Hector Garcia. I live and work in Miami, Florida. I teach QuickBooks in my own classroom down here. I'm also a member of the Trainer Writer Network, and I'm an expert in all things QuickBooks, and very happy to host QB Power Hour for you guys. CPE process, if you need CPE, you must attend the webinar live. If you're watching the recording, you don't get the CPE. While you watch it live, just write down the CPE keyword and you'll get asked that CPE keyword at the end. I will email you the certificate within 3 weeks. As we mentioned, some episodes are eligible for ACE, for Advanced Pro Advisors, and some are not. This one is not. Next week's will be. Anyway, our guest speaker is Mark Wickersham. Mark Wickersham is an accountant in the UK, and he's got the Amazon's best-selling book on effective pricing for accountants. So check that out. It's actually a great book, and you can check it out on Amazon. And also, he created the cloud pricing software called Pricing in the Cloud. And Mark is going to talk to us about, how to price, how to talk to your clients, and essentially he's also going to talk to you about the pricing software that he developed to complement, all his teachings that he does on value pricing. Also, Mark mentors accountants and bookkeepers through the process of improving the pricing and using the software, kind of both at the same time. I believe he'll definitely mention his mentoring program. I believe he mentors about 150, or his goal is to mentor up to 150 accountants in the US, and that is a paid program. However, Mark is going to give us a lot of free resources, and I believe he's going to give us a free offer so we can at least try it for 30 days, risk-free. So we'll allow Mark to give his spiel, talk about his book, Effective Pricing, talk about best way to kind of reel the client in, close the deal, and discuss closing your deals for cloud-based clients. Mark, take it away.
Hi there, it's Mark Wickersham, Amazon #1 best-selling author of Effective Pricing for Accountants. And in this video, I'm going to share with you a structured step-by-step process on how we get people set up on a cloud accounting system like QuickBooks Online. How do we price that? How do we value price that and turn it into a profitable opportunity? This video is going to be crammed full of information. I'm going to take you through a process. I'm going to show you the exact systems to use. And here's the great news, is there is no sales pitch. There is nothing to buy whatsoever. In fact, what I've got for you is 2 free gifts, which I'll tell you about later. So hang on for those. So let's get straight in, because I want to get straight into the content as quick as I can. And I want to start with just a quick story by way of some background. And it involves this lady that you can see on the screen right now. Her name is Sophia Botchway. She's an accountant in the UK in a village in Oxfordshire. And I first met Sophia in December 2014 at a pricing workshop I was running. And she said to me that she was struggling. She was struggling with her pricing, and she joined my mentoring program in January of 2015 because she wanted some help with pricing. And I'll tell you more about my mentoring program later, along with a very special free gift I have for you. But anyway, I've been working with Sophia for, at the time of recording this, 1.5 years. She said to me that she'd been running her accounting firm for a few years. Prior to that, she'd spent 12 years working in the National Audit Office, working in government. And she said that in 4 or 5 years after running her practice, she'd found that she was working so much harder, so many longer hours for less money. And life had got so bad for her that when I first met her in December 2014, she'd actually applied for her old job back. I don't know if you can relate to that. Have you ever found that sometimes you feel you're just working way too hard, too many hours for too little reward? Certainly, I've been there when I was running my accounting firm in the 1990s. Sophia was there just a little while back. Anyway, she said to me that one of the things that she does a lot of work in is setting people up on QuickBooks Online, on a cloud accounting system. She's a very forward-thinking accountant. But she said to me, I keep setting people up on the cloud, and I almost always do it for free because I have no idea how much to charge. And that's interesting because she's not actually alone. I've done a couple of big webinars in the last few weeks for CPAs with about 400 people attending each one. And I've asked the question, how much do you typically charge for setting people up on a cloud accounting system? And what I mean by that is taking their existing system, setting them up on QuickBooks Online, setting up the chart of accounts and transferring their trial balance, their data across. And what's interesting is somewhere in all the studies I've done, somewhere between 35 and 40% do this for free. So about a third, let's say. A third of people do this for free, don't charge. About another 40 to 50% do charge, but it's such a small amount. In the US, it's about up to $500, and in the UK, a few £100s. So most people either give it away for free or charge a very small amount. Only a very tiny proportion get fees of over £1,000, over 1,500 US dollars. And what I'm going to share with you is a system that will get you those sort of fees every single time. Anyway, back to Sophia. So I taught her a system back in January, February 2015 when we started working together on my mentoring program. I taught her how to price setting people up on the cloud. And over a couple of months, I helped her create a brochure. This is actually, she kindly sent me her brochure. You can see it on the webcam. And it's a lovely brochure that she's done that she uses when she takes her clients through the process of pricing a cloud accounting setup when she puts them onto QuickBooks. And you'll see as you move on to the third page that she has a list 3 different packages, and I'll tell you why in a short while. And I will show you the exact wording later, so don't worry too much about that. Anyway, she decided that having created a brochure, she would formally launch her brand new revamped cloud accounting setup service in March 2015, 1st of March. And 2 months later, in our monthly mentoring session, this was May of 2015, she shared with me and the rest of the group the result, which was incredible. And she kindly sent me a letter as well in May 2015, which you can probably see on the screen now. If you can't read it, I'm going to just read some of the bits to you. She said, Mark, this is amazing stuff. In the past, I've always done the setting up of a cloud accounting system such as QuickBooks, free of charge. Since coming on board with the pricing mentoring group, I've used your resource and turned it into a professional looking brochure. And this was the brochure. These are the results I've had so far. The first client I saw, which is a brand new client, I presented the brochure, discussed the various options, and the client went for the premium setup. I'll explain more about that in a short while. That was over £1,000 of annual revenue that would have been lost previously. £1,000 is about $1,500 if you're in the US. She went on to say the second client I saw, which was this time an existing client, she followed the same process and worked through the brochure. The client this time went for the full setup, and they also paid a one-off additional £800 to review the transactions first before moving across from Excel to QuickBooks. She said, in the past 2 months, we've had a 100% success rate of all business owners that we've approached about moving to the cloud and installing a cloud accounting system. The total additional fees, total additional revenue, has been over £7,000, which would otherwise have been lost when we used to do this for free. So in just 2 months, with a system, with a process, with a structure, a brochure, Sophia's added an extra £7,000, which is about $10,500, $11,000, straight to bottom line profit, because she was doing it for free before, and now she's starting to charge for it, and it's pure profit. Since May of 2015, Sophia's been one of my star students. She's going from strength to strength and getting even better results. But what I want to do in this webinar is I want to share with you the process that she went through, and I want to make it really, really practical for you. But first, what I want to do is I want to describe some of the foundation to value pricing. I've been working in the accounting profession now since the year 2000. Before that, I was running my own accounting firm as a sole trader, a sole practitioner. I then sold that a few years later. I've been teaching accountants value pricing since the year 2000. And what I found, which is fascinating, is when I started in the year 2000, is pretty much every single firm that I worked with, every single accounting firm, bookkeeping firm, priced based on time. That was the old-fashioned way of doing things. And what I've seen in the last 5 to 10 years is a big sea change in attitudes, that now almost every accounting firm and bookkeeping firm I speak to recognise that we need to move to value pricing. But what I've found is that very, very few have found a way of doing that. They found it difficult. And actually, the reason for that is because it is difficult. There are 2 reasons why value pricing is difficult. The first one is that value itself is very subjective. It's very difficult to quantify, and so it's very hard to come up with a pricing system when what we're pricing against is subjective. And then secondly, to make it even worse still, is that everybody values things differently. Every customer places a different value on something. And so with those 2 different challenges, it does make value pricing very hard, and that's why so few firms have made the transition. The great news is I'm going to give you a system for doing exactly that. So hang on and I'll take you through the system. And I'll come back and show you stuff on the screen very, very soon. So bear with me. What I want to start with, though, is 2 quick things by way of foundation. Firstly, I want to just talk a little bit about cloud accounting. And secondly, I want to talk about a 7-step formula that I teach people. And then we'll start to get in some detail. I want to also talk about some of the myths and the mistakes that people are making. So, firstly, cloud accounting. I think this is a huge opportunity for the accounting profession, the accountants and bookkeepers, because, as I'm sure you know, cloud accounting is now here. The future is with us today. And you are going to find that at some point, sooner or later, all of your clients will have to move onto the cloud. That's my prediction, because none of the software companies want to continue with desktop systems. There are a number of reasons for this. They want to move people onto the cloud, which means that at some point desktop systems will cease to exist. And so your clients will not have a choice other than keeping those old-fashioned manual books and records, which of course are no good to anybody. So they're going to have to move to the cloud. And so if you can create a system, a structure that allows you to generate £1,000, $1,500 every single time for every client you meet and move them onto the cloud, that's a huge opportunity. So I'm going to teach you that. First, a few of the myths about pricing, though, that I come across whenever I talk about pricing. Here are a couple of the big myths, in fact, 3 myths. And the first one, the biggest one, this is a big myth that's holding us back, is when I'm in workshops with accounting firms and bookkeeping firms, I ask the question, put your hand up if you have price-sensitive clients. And what's amazing is all hands go up in the room. And perhaps you think you've got price-sensitive clients too. Actually, the reality is that's wrong. You don't have price-sensitive clients. And the reason for that is because behavioural economists have done research, and they've estimated that about 20%, about 1 in 5 people in society are price-sensitive. Imagine, for example, the little old retired lady who every weekend goes to the doormat to pick up the free newspapers. She scans through those newspapers and, armed with a pair of scissors, meticulously cuts out the adverts for 3p off butter. She's price sensitive. She's got time on her hands. However, think about your clients. She's not your client. Think about your clients. Do you have clients that drink their coffee in places like Starbucks? Because if they do, those clients by definition cannot be price sensitive because there are cheaper ways of getting your coffee fix. Do you have any clients that own an Apple product like this, an iPhone, an iPad, a Mac computer? Because those clients by definition can't be price sensitive. There are cheaper ways to get a phone, a tablet, a computer. So what I can almost guarantee is none of your clients are price sensitive. What they are is value sensitive, and that's a very different thing. And when we understand that, suddenly everything changes. The reason why we often think our clients are price sensitive is because at some point you've presented a price to a client or a prospective client and they've said to you, oh dear, that's a bit more expensive than I was expecting. And we assume because of that is that they're price sensitive. Now, actually, that's what's called an imaginary objection. It's the only reason anybody ever says to you, that's expensive, is because you haven't done a good enough job at explaining the value. Because what most people in society want, and particularly your clients, is we're value sensitive. I'm value sensitive, you're value sensitive. What we want is the biggest possible profit on the deal. That's the gap between the value someone gets, the benefit, and the price they pay. That's why people pay Starbucks more money to buy a venti chai tea latte or a venti latte because they see there's a bigger profit on the deal. It's worth paying that little bit more to get a bigger cup of coffee. I'm like that. I'm value sensitive. I want more. So when we understand that, what we have to recognize is that our focus has to change away from price towards the value to the customer. And that means using techniques, it means using language, it means using ways and systems of communicating value, which is a profession we've been very poor at. So that's the first myth. And I spent a bit of time on that because that is, I think, the number one thing holding accounting professionals back. We believe our clients are price sensitive. And so when we deliver a price, we try to be competitive, which is another way of being cheap. And that just creates all sorts of problems further down the line. That is why you are working too hard for too little money. So we have to change. Second thing, one of the things I've found over the last particularly 5 or 6 years is there is a huge shift away from billing by the hour to fixed pricing, giving a single fixed price up front. And the myth is this: fixed pricing and value pricing are not the same thing. Fixed pricing is great from the customer's point of view because it gives them certainty. They know exactly what the price is. But one of the things I know is that almost every single time an accounting professional gives a fixed price, that fixed price is based on their best guess of how long the job will take. It's a form of time-based billing. In fact, I came across an amazing quote by Ron Baker that made me laugh the other day. He said that fixed pricing is just time-based billing in drag, which I thought was great. And it's so true. It's not value pricing. And so we need to think differently. And I'm going to share with you how. Third myth is one I come across a lot, is people say to me things like, oh, Mark, yes, I know you're saying I should put my prices up and I should value price, but Mark, what you don't understand is I'm in an economically challenged area. I live in the country. We're currently in difficult times. We're in recessionary times. Mark, I have difficult clients. Actually, all of those things are excuses. I've found this from experience and benchmarking studies that firms that have got difficult clients or in economically challenged areas or in the middle of recessions have still found ways of pricing in a different way and got better prices. So let me now move on to 3 big mistakes that we make all the time. And here's the single biggest mistake I see over and over and over again. And the big mistake is not having a price discussion with the client. You should always price with the client, either face-to-face ideally or virtual meeting. The mistake we make is we do things like we publish prices on a website. That is crazy. Please, if you've got your price on a website, take them off now. We put prices in brochures and send them out to people. Don't do that. And the other mistake, which I used to make when I was in practice, if I go back to 1996 when I started, this is what would happen. I would go and visit a prospective client. I'd impress the heck out of them. They'd want to work with me. But the final question was, Mark, so what will it cost? And I would say, oh, that's a great question. Let me go away and think about it, and I will send a proposal through the post. Back in the 1990s, we had something called the post. You perhaps use email now, but it's the same thing. And that's a huge mistake. Please never, ever, ever, ever send a proposal by email or through the post, unless it's just to confirm what's been agreed and signed up. Here's the reason why. Think about if you've ever had a quote from anybody, whether it's a landscape gardener, the decorator, they've sent you a quote. When you get the quote or proposal, what's the first thing you look for? Well, I know what your clients are looking for. When you send that proposal through the email or post, they go flicking through it and look for the price. And when they see that number, they make an immediate judgment about the size of that number. And almost certainly their initial reaction will be, ooh, that's more expensive than I was expecting. And the problem is you've lost control of the process because you're not there with them because you've sent it by email or through the post. You're not there. And what often happens is they think, do you know what? There's my existing accountant, bookkeeper or firm down the road. I'll go and talk to them. And they go and see them and say, I've just had this come through the post. Can you beat it? And you never hear from them again. So you have to come up with price in the meeting. 2 other big mistakes we make is and this stems from some research that says that whenever we buy anything, whenever customers buy something, there are 2 things we want. We want certainty. We want to know exactly what we're getting and what that price is. And the big mistake we've made as a profession is we price based on time, and that kills that straight away because the client, by definition, doesn't have certainty. They don't know what the final bill will be until the hours have been added up. That's the fundamental problem with time-based billing. The customer does not have certainty. So that's a big mistake. We have to give them certainty right up front. They have to know exactly what it's going to cost them and the basis on which the price is calculated. Secondly, when we buy anything in life, we also want choice because we're all individuals. We're all unique. So when you go to buy, for example, an Apple product, an iPhone, they give you a choice. And we have to do exactly the same thing. If you say to the client, yes, you can buy our bookkeeping, it's £25 an hour, $35 an hour, there's no certainty, there's no choice. We have to get rid of that. So let me now bring my screen back up. I'm going to take you through a 7-step formula. 7 steps. And I'm going to do this very, very quickly just to give you a framework. This is something that I spend a full day teaching. This is my full day pricing workshop, and we haven't got a day. We've got about 6 or 7 minutes for me to take you through this formula. But I want to do it by way of to give you the framework. And once you've got this framework, then what I'm going to do is take you through and show you how to make it practical when it comes to moving people onto QuickBooks Online or other cloud accounting systems. But here very quickly are the 7 steps. And these are 7 steps you want to carry out before you ever reveal price to a client. And step 1 is what I call price discrimination. It's what the economists, it's their fancy language for charging different customers different prices. And this is really at the heart of value pricing. This is so fundamental. I mentioned it earlier. It's a fact of life that everybody values things differently. And this is one of the reasons why having a single fixed price is always the wrong price. We must not use fixed pricing, and we certainly must not give a single fixed price, because that will always be the wrong price, because everybody values things differently. So what we have to do is come up with a way of valuing, of pricing each customer separately. And there are many, many techniques that we can use, but the one which is the most powerful for the accounting profession and the easiest to understand as well is what I call menu pricing, which is about giving the client a range of different options, packages, so they get to choose the one that best meets their needs. And just doing this alone is starting to move to value pricing, because the client now, because they've got a range of options, they choose the package, the bundle, the option that best represents value to them. Because everyone values things differently and we don't know what that is, so they get to choose. They choose the one that represents the most value for them. And I'm going to show you exactly how we do that with QuickBooks Online setup. The key thing here, though, is how many options should we give them? Well, the answer is 3. It's called the magic of 3. And there's some price psychology, which I'm not going to go into now, but for now, just accept that you'll get a better result if you offer 3 choices. And if you remember back to Sophia's brochure, she gave the client, and I've got it up on the webcam here, she gave the client 3 choices. So that's the first step in the process. We have to give the client those choices so they pick the one that's right for them. The second thing we do, having decided how many options we're going to create, we have to think about adding more value. Which, by the way, I think that as a profession, our primary focus should be on adding as much value as we possibly can to our clients. I think this is a great profession. We have the ability to really make a difference to people's lives, whether that's through taking away the hassle, whether it's through saving them tax, whether it's through helping them grow their business. We can change people's lives. And so what we should always be doing is looking to do more. And when we do more, we differentiate ourselves from everybody else. We can charge higher prices, and it's the right thing to do for the client. So when you create your packages, always think about, well, what more can I possibly do? And there is always more that you can do. We have to be creative here. And I'll show you some examples as we go through the system for cloud setup. The third thing we then have to do is, having then created our packages and we've filled that with added value, we have to then explain that value. And of the 7 steps, this is the one that as a profession we're shocking at. I think back to the 1990s, I had no idea about this. We seem to assume that our clients know what we do, and even worse, we assume they see the benefit. They absolutely have no idea what we do. When you do a set of bookkeeping, for example, they don't know the processes and the reconciliations that you go through. If you don't tell the client what you do, they can't possibly see the value. So we have to use techniques. We have to use communication techniques, things like something I call turning features into benefits. We have to use things like the contrast principle. We have to use marketing language, stuff that helps the client to understand, see the benefit to them. Then what we also have to do is explain the payment terms. And this is because payment terms, you getting paid, is part of the pricing equation. We tend to neglect this, and yet we can use payment terms very creatively to get a better price. Next, once you've done that, once we've built up the value, it's time to then come up with the price. We have to calculate the price. And what we have to do is come up with a price that's linked to value. And that means we never, ever, ever come up with a price based on time, because there is no link whatsoever between time, how many hours you spend doing a piece of work, and the value to the customer. No client ever goes to their accountant or bookkeeper for a meeting thinking, oh, fantastic, I'm off to the accountant's offices or the bookkeeper to buy an hour of their time. Never. They are not interested in buying time off us. They want the result. They want a solution to their problems. They want value. So we have to figure out, well, what is the result that we're giving and how do we link that to the price? Next, what we do is, having calculated the price, my favourite bit then is we have to then make the price seem small. And the really important word here is seem small. We don't make the price small, because what we need to be doing here instead is we're actually too cheap as a profession as it is. We need to put our prices up. But we do that by focusing on building the value. However, step 6, this is my favourite. This is all about price psychology. There are so many things that we can do, little techniques, to make price seem smaller than it really is. And I might give you one or two of those later on in this short video. And then last but not least, we then have to again consider the power strategies. And I'm not going to go through these in any detail whatsoever. I'll mention one of them, the power of testing. What that says is that we should continually test our prices, because there's no such thing as the right price, only a better price. And we only find that by changing our prices, testing and measuring. And that's why we need a system. If we don't have a system for testing, then we can't find that better price. And so I'm going to give you the system in a short while. I'm going to share with you the system. So that's the 7-step formula. I normally spend a day teaching that, but that's a very quick whistle-stop tour. And what I want to do now is I want to make it really practical. In fact, I'm going to break that 7 steps into, let's break it into 2 to make it really simple. Let's take those 7 steps and break it into 2. And before I do that, I just want to share with you just a few more success stories. I shared Sophia's story. And I'm going to tell you how she gets over £1,000, $1,500 every single time, following that formula and applying it to setting people up on QuickBooks Online. But I want to just share with you a couple of the stories I've had just very recently. I'm recording this in July 2016, and in the last 2 months, I run a number of mentoring groups where I teach accountants and bookkeepers how to price. And I'll tell you more about that in a short while. I'll tell you how you can be part of the group if you want to be, like Sophia in the UK. I am running a group which I only started 2 months ago in May for bookkeepers. And it's 2 months ago. And in the last 2 months, I've had some amazing success stories teaching this process. And let me just share this one. Helena Hasty put on I have a private closed Facebook group for the firms I work with. And this bookkeeper called Helena, as you can see on the screen, she said, I have an appointment tomorrow. This was on the 16th of May to meet the first of my clients that I'm planning to move over onto a monthly fee. I hope I can stick to the pricing and not want to start offering discounts. And she got some good luck messages. But I don't know if you can see, halfway through the comments, she then came back, which was, I think, the following day. She said, thanks, everyone. The client agreed to a fixed monthly price of $357, whereas on average over the last year, I'd billed $211 on hourly figures. That's almost a 70% increase if I'm calculating that correctly. What was very interesting was that they didn't bat an eyelid at the price and immediately agreed. So here's a bookkeeper who started to apply this process, this 7-step formula and the thinking, and straight away, first time around, got 70% increase on price. Client didn't bat an eyelid. Here's another one, Ariana. She says, yeah, I've managed to get the software, I'll tell you about that later. I've managed to get the software to provide a price, and I'm happy with for this client, and managed to get my packages all sorted out. I have been fretting all morning about speaking to this client, but I went through the quote with him via join.me, so she's done it online, which is very clever, and he's taken the package I wanted him to take. It's a lot less than some would accept, but it's a price I'm happy with, and I can build on that. Woohoo! So she's delighted. Here's another one quickly. Judith Fletcher, this was the 9th of July, so this is only a few days ago. She said, I used the cloud pricing software. I'll come back to that. Hang on. I used the cloud pricing software with a client for the first time and think I have my first success. This was the second meeting with a prospective new client, which I mentioned in the previous post. Originally only wanted once a year accounts and used Excel paper for record keeping. I sold the idea of the cloud in the first meeting and suggested bookkeeping too. Today I gave her a quote for both bookkeeping and annual accounts. She has picked the bookkeeping full option of £237 per month and wants to use Receipt Bank. There was no query at all over the price. The focus was on the difference between the different options, which is something I found that when you give people choices, it's no longer a decision about should they buy yes or no. It's yes, I'm going to buy, which is the right option. And she goes on, and you can read more of that if you want. I've got two more I want to share with you, and this one is Stephen Boyd. He says, first prospective client meeting with the new glossy brochure done. I'll tell you about that in a short while. Hold on. Fantastic result. She signed up there and then. No issue over the price quoted. About 30% more per month than I would have quoted on my hourly rate. And to top it off, it's also 57% more than she was quoted by another bookkeeper. But she obviously saw the value in what I could bring to her. Goes to show that being the cheapest won't always win you the business. And that's absolutely right. This client was shopping around. There was a cheaper option, but chose Stephen Boyd. Why? Because Stephen used a process, including a brochure, for building the value, focusing on value. I'm going to show you exactly what he did in a short while. Bear with me. One final one, and this is my favourite. This one was Andy Housley. He says, bookkeepers, by their very nature, are analytical and can sometimes suffer from detail-itis, me included. So to cobble together a brochure and do my first cloud pricing practically on the hoof was always going to be a strange experience. So what did I learn? Just get out there and do it. Don't wait for things to be perfect. Outcome, a new client at 7 times, yes, 7 times my normal rate. Granted, probably won't happen all the time, but cloud pricing certainly takes the stress out of promoting my services at a decent rate. I think this is going to be a rather interesting journey, and certainly it is. So there's 5 people just in the last few weeks that have been following this process and getting much, much better results. Some 30% higher prices, 70% higher, 7 times higher prices. And let me now distill those 7 steps into the 2 phases. So do you remember I said you have to have a face-to-face conversation, which can be online with something like Join Me or Skype or GoToMeeting. And the reason for that is because you first have to identify and ask questions to discover what is the people they value, what are their pain points, what do they want out of life, what's their goals, what's their needs. Until you understand all these things, you can't possibly come up with a value-based price. So the first part of the process is have a conversation. We have a face-to-face meeting. And essentially we have to build up a picture of the value so they are desperate to buy. And that's really what the first 4 steps are about, coming up with 3 options, adding more value, explain the value, and communicating payment terms. And all those 4 steps can be structured inside a professional-looking brochure, like the one on the screen. And here's my advice for you. I recommend that for every service you offer, including setting people up on QuickBooks Online, you have a professional-looking brochure. There are a number of reasons for that. Let me give you 2. Number 1, it's one of the 4 P's of marketing. It's called packaging. And interestingly, I don't know if you know, but price is also one of the 4 P's of marketing. Pricing is marketing. So packaging is really important. When you professionally package your solutions and take the client through, what happens is with professional packaging, it influences the client's or the prospective client's perception of the quality of what you do. And when they perceive that your quality is better than the firm down the road, they will expect to pay you a higher price. That's why Apple have beautiful packaging. But the other reason, and this is probably even more important, is if you create a professional looking brochure which you go through with the client in the meeting, that becomes a system. I'm a huge fan of systems. And with the system, it becomes your structure for the meeting, your agenda, your aide-memoire. It's the reminder of what to say and in the right order, because it's really important when you build up the value. I'm going to show you a brochure on screen very soon and some specific words. But that's the first step. You have to have a professional, need a system, a structure, a brochure to take the client through so that they can see the value. And only when they fully understand the value do you then reveal price. And what you do there is you then want to make sure you have a system for coming up with a price in the meeting, because the big mistake is to send a proposal through the post. Okay? Now, how do you do that? Well, the difficulty, of course, is that how do you come up with a number on the fly in a meeting with the client that's based on value? How do you find that number? You need a system. And the problem is that accounting and bookkeeping is not straightforward because there are so many variables. Every client is different. You have some clients which are big, some are small. Some have good records, some have bad records. Some trade as a corporate entity, some as a sole trader. Some want management reporting, some don't. They're all different. They're all unique. And so how do we work out a price that gives us a profit and also taps into value pricing? Well, I believe that the only way you can properly do it is with a piece of software. And actually, when you use software-based approach to come up with a price, you have three big advantages. The first advantage of using a software-based approach is that you have transparency. When the client can see how the price is building up, when there's that transparency, it creates credibility and trust. And what I've found over the years is that when you use a software-based approach, people are more likely to accept the price. They are less likely to negotiate. Second big benefit, and this comes from price psychology, this is why Apple do this when you buy an Apple Mac computer on screen on their website. They do a brilliant job. What happens is when you are the customer and you're in control of the process, so when you're involved in the pricing process, when you get to choose how your packages are made up, what happens when you're in control as a customer? You spend more money. It happens, it's been proven. So what you'll find with a software-based approach, your clients will spend more money. And the third thing, which is even more powerful, is you convert more business. Because here's what happens. When you reveal your price in the meeting, there's only two things that can happen. Either the price is something they're willing and able to spend, and they say yes. Awesome, great, because you've made the sale. That's awesome in the meeting. The only other thing that can happen is the price is a bit on the high side. They can't afford it. It's more than they're expecting. It's beyond their budget. Well, because you're in the meeting with the client, you can deal with that there and then. And with a software-based approach, you can work with the client to just change the package and keep changing the package until they eventually say yes. And what happens with a software-based approach is you'll get more people saying yes in the meeting and at higher prices. I'll show you what I mean in a short while. So here's what we're going to do next. I am now going to show you a couple of pages from a brochure, and then I'm going to show you how you could use a software approach in a bit more detail. So let's go through the brochure next. So what you can see on the screen is a professional looking brochure. It's 12 pages designed to get the client to see the value of what you do and wanting to buy. I'm going to take you through a few of the pages, not all of it because we haven't got time, and just give you a general structure. So the first part of the brochure is all designed to get the client to see the value of what you do. And so what you do is you start off by describing the pain. What's the pain they're currently experiencing? And you want to describe the pain as graphically as possible because it's been shown that as humans we're more motivated to avoid pain than by the attainment of gain. So describe the pain and then describe the benefit of a cloud accounting system. In overview, as kind of the big headlines, and I've put in the brochure 6 bullet points of the big benefits of a cloud accounting system. Now at this point the client's likely to say, if you've done a good job here, they might well say, that sounds great, what will it cost? And that's called the price question. And you should never answer the price question with the price because you haven't yet finished building up the value. So never reveal price too early in the process. Instead, you want to say something, and your brochure would have this along the lines of, that's a great question. Let me explain the basis on which we price. one of the things that we hate is the way the accounting profession and the bookkeeping profession have priced historically, which is pricing based on how long the job will take. We don't think it's fair. It means you can't plan and can't budget. So what we do is give you a fixed price right up front. But not only that, is we know that every client is different, doesn't want to buy a one-size-fits-all solution, so we give you a range of 3 different choices. So at that point, what you do, you've deflected the pricing question by explaining the basis on which you price, which they'll agree that's fair because it meets those 2 criteria I mentioned earlier, that everybody wants certainty and choice. And so you talk through your 3 different options. So let me explain what I now do, what we do, your 3 choices. In fact, let me move on to the next page, because then what you would show is a page that shows what's in the different packages. And this is probably the most important page in the brochure. It's using a technique called the tick list technique, and there's some psychology behind why this works so well. And as you can see, we've got 3 packages. We've got Essential Cloud Setup, Full Cloud Setup, and Premium Cloud Setup, and the table shows what's included and what's not included in the different options. And on the left-hand side is what we do. And what's in that table is partly stuff that we have to do to be able to deliver to the bare minimum things, which are things like setting up the company on QuickBooks Online, setting up the chart of accounts, and transferring the data across, doing a full transaction history conversion. But also, remember, step 2 in the formula is we have to think about how we can add more value. So think about what more can you do to make it even more valuable still. And let's assume that you're not doing the bookkeeping, you're just setting them up. If you're just setting them up, rather than leaving them to it, to add more value, you might do a quarterly reconciliation and check they're doing things right for the first year. You might do some basic management information. You might set up their bank feeds. You might offer some training days. You might bundle in the cost of the software. You might give them some telephone and email support, and so on and so forth. So make sure you come up with ways of adding value. And then, and this is the final point I want to make with the brochure, we're only on page 5 out of 12, and what the rest of the brochure does is it gives you a structure, a system, a process for building up the value of everything. Because everything on the left-hand side of this page is what's called a feature. And one of the things that marketers teach us is that people don't buy features, they buy benefits. So we have to describe the benefit of everything that we do. Otherwise, they won't see the value. So, for example, on the left-hand side, it says one of the things that we do is a chart of accounts setup. Now, you understand what that means. I understand it. The chances are your client has no idea whatsoever. If you don't explain what that means, and more importantly, explain it in terms that the client sees the benefit to them, then they'll never value it. So if I move on to page 2, the next page I think it is, what we've got in here is wording that's designed to help the client see the benefit. Not that you would read this word for word to the client, but it'll act as your aide memoir, your reminder. So when you're describing the chart of accounts, you might say something like this. You might say, if this is the first time you've set up an accounting system, you will need a chart of accounts. Every business is different, with different types of sales, income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. The chart of accounts is your list of sales types, different income sources, expenses, assets, and liabilities. It's unique to you. Setting this up correctly at the outset will save so much time and make it much, much easier to post your transactions to the right place. It will also make your accounts more meaningful, and so you'll be able to make much better business decisions. So can you see with the 2 big benefits there? We're going to save them a ton of time, and they're going to have more accurate financial information, so they'll make better business decisions and run a more successful business. The chart of accounts is so important, so we have to make sure we communicate that. And that's what the rest of the brochure then does. It goes through using language that builds and builds and builds the value of everything that you do. So what's next? The next step is, once you've gone through your brochure, hopefully by then they want to buy from you. They can now see the value. They can see that what you're going to do is going to change their life. So they are ready to buy. So the next step in the process is we need to then have a system for coming up with a price. And that's what I'm going to do next. But before I do that, let me quickly tell you about how my mentoring program works. And I've got the first of 2 free things coming up. So this is how it works. I've been mentoring accountants and bookkeepers since 2014, June 2014. I currently mentor over 300 accountants and bookkeepers, and I do that it all takes place online, so there's no need to travel. I have some UK groups and some groups specifically for US and Canada, but if you're not in those countries, you can still come to whatever time zone works. And what happens is this: we get together for 90 minutes once a month online. You just jump online, and what happens is I will teach you stuff. I will teach you pricing. I'll teach you some techniques. I'll get very practical and teach you how to price something like QBO setup, bookkeeping, cash flow forecast, payroll. Every month we pick a topic and I go deep into teaching you how to price it. Not only that is I always have something to share with you afterwards, either a detailed training video or I've created a ton of brochures. I have about a dozen different brochures like the one that I've gone through. And I've done that because I want to give my students everything they need, the systems to be successful. And the third big benefit is, as well as in the 90-minute meetings, I teach you stuff. You can ask me questions. It's interactive. You also get access to a private closed Facebook group. So you can ask me questions throughout the month and you can share and learn from other people in the group. So you'll become part of a community, a group of like-minded accounting professionals, accountants, bookkeepers, who are on this journey of value pricing. And my goal is to help you be successful, just like I've helped Sophia and those other 5 stories I shared with you earlier. In fact, pricing is quite simply the easiest way to increase profits. And when you work with me, after 3 or 4 months, if you follow what I teach you and put things in place, whilst I can't guarantee it, many firms that I have been working with have added on within 6 months 5-figure increases in bottom line profit. And some firms within 18 months have doubled their profits. And that's my goal. My goal is to help you be successful. Now, I've just put on the screen the list of the groups that I have. I run mentoring once a month. And I have 7 groups. I run, and these are UK times, so I have UK groups at 9 o'clock and 11:30 in the morning on a Tuesday and a Thursday. They're specifically for the UK, but also a few people join those from Australia and New Zealand. And then at 4:30 UK time, which is in the morning in the US, is my groups for the USA and Canada. So if you are from USA or Canada, you can come and join my Tuesday group, my Wednesday group, or my Thursday group. The Wednesday one is more for CPAs, so I look at some of the things specific to CPAs, like tax planning, for example, whereas Tuesday and Thursday we focus a little bit more on bookkeeping. There's not a huge difference between them, but if you're a CPA, Wednesday would be a better group for you. If you're a bookkeeper, Tuesday and Thursday would be better. You pick which one works. And if you're not in the US or Canada, if you're in the UK, for example, then you'd probably want to start with one of my 2 foundation groups to start with to learn the foundations. So they're my groups. They're the only groups that I run. When these are full, they're full. They've gone forever. And they're all, I've got over 300 people I'm mentoring, and I'm not far off filling up. I use GoToMeeting, so there is an upper limit on the number of people in the group. Certainly my US/Canadian groups are well over half full, and I fully expect that by the end of 2016, they will be sold out. They only started in January, and they've grown at a crazy pace. So very soon they'll be sold out, and so I want to give you an opportunity to be part of one of these groups if you want to be. So that's the benefit of what you'll get. And in terms of your investments, I put on the screen the prices. The investment is a monthly investment, and obviously it depends whether if you're in the UK or when you're outside the UK, as to whether it's got sales tax added on or not. They are monthly investments, and here's the key thing. Firstly, I'll have a guarantee for you that if you decide to join the group, if at the end of any one month you've not had value, you can ask for that month's back, no questions asked, so there's no risk. And secondly, you're in full control. There's no minimum commitment. You can be in a group for as long or as little as you want. So once you've started your payments, if after 12 months you've changed your mind and want to leave the group, that's fine. If after 6 months, if after 2 months, if after the first month you decide it's not for you, you can stop. It's as simple as that. You're in full control. I have some people who've worked with me for many months. Sophia, I've been working with for now 18 months and she's still part of the group. I've got some people that started with me right from day one who are still with me. I have other people that sometimes come along for 1 or 2 sessions and then they decide their circumstances have changed. It's entirely up to you. But as I said earlier, you can't actually join these groups because I've got nothing to sell to you on this particular video. But I have got something for free, and this is the first of the 2 free things. What I'd like to do is invite you to come along as my guest to the next session of my mentoring group, completely free of charge. Come along for a month and just get as much value as you like out of it. Come and listen, come and learn, come and ask your questions if you want, take part in the group and experience the whole thing. Have 90 minutes with me for no cost whatsoever. You'll be my guest. And so if you want to do that, and why wouldn't you, then you'll find somewhere below this video, we'll have put a link so you can see how to request access. So there'll be a link somewhere. And all you'll need to do is decide which of the groups is most appropriate for you. So if you're in the US, you'll want the Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday at 4:30 UK time, which is morning in the US. If you're in the UK, you'll probably want one of the foundation ones, but if you want, you can come to an advanced one for the first one. So come along as my guest, completely free of charge. It's subject to spaces built still being available, and you can come along, experience the whole thing. At the end of it, after the session, and there'll be no sales pitch on the session either, because this is a live mentoring group you'll be participating in. So at the end of it, all we'll do is we'll send you a quick email and say, do you want to be part of this group, yes or no? And it's as simple as that. If you love what you see and want to be part of it, that's fine. If not, doesn't matter. No commitment whatsoever. But that's a decision for another day. For now, just take me up on the free offer. Click on the link below this video and let us know which of the groups you want to come along to as a guest and just come and get value out of that session. So let's now move on to steps 5 and 6 of the formula. How do we now come up with a price in the meeting? And you remember I said to you that I think that the only way to do it for the accounting profession is using a software-based approach. There are many advantages of that anyway. And so I want to quickly just show you cloud pricing, which if you decide to join my mentoring program, you can get a copy of this. So let me just show you how this works. This is designed to help you, to give you a system of pricing with confidence in front of a client, to involve the client in the process. The software can be used for pricing bookkeeping work, annual financial statements, personal tax returns, management reporting and management accounts, payroll, and then under other services, there's a whole host of other services that you can price. For example, cloud accounting setup. I'm actually not going to show you cloud accounting setup this time. I'm going to have a switch of focus now. I'm going to look at bookkeeping. How would you price bookkeeping using a software-based approach? So I'm going to just show you very quickly the process. What you would do is you've gone through the brochure with the client. They want to buy from you. It's just now a case of agreeing the price. So you open up the software on your laptop, on your computer, on your iPad if you want, and you ask a series of questions. All of the questions can be changed in the settings behind the scenes. So if you don't, I think I've got the UK version on screen at the moment, but you can change it, change the questions. So the sorts of questions you might have may be, how many divisions do you have? Let's imagine we've got a client called Precision Moldings. How many divisions? They've got 3 divisions, 3 workshops. What type of business are they in? And you can create a list of different business types. How many sales invoices do they raise per month? Let's say they do 50 sales invoices. Now, if you want to, you can change that to how many purchase invoices. You can price on a different basis. Some bookkeepers I work with do exactly that. Are you VAT registered? That's UK sales tax. In the US, you might reword that as, are you registered for sales tax? Yes or no. Do you raise sales invoices? Do you run a sales ledger? Do you have accounts receivable? Yes or no. Obviously, that would be no in a business like retail, for example. And of course, that impacts the price, because if they raise sales invoices, you've then got to match those sales invoices against the subsequent receipts. You can ask questions like, how many bank accounts do you have? How many credit card accounts do you have? Do you have PayPal accounts? I'm just going to put some numbers in here for now. Don't worry too much about it. Do you have payroll journals? Do you have foreign currency transactions? Do you want to account for your divisions? So if you're using QBO, I think they call it locations. So you can separate the bookkeeping between different shops or workshops or whatever. So let's say that the client says, I've never had that before. Yeah, let's do that. That would be great to account for my 3 different workshops that we put in at the start. How often do you want us to do the bookkeeping? Let's say monthly. What systems do you use? And let's imagine that they've got an awful desktop system, and you'll see why in a second. So let's say they say to you, yeah, I've got a desktop system, and I know you've said about the advantage of moving to QuickBooks Online, but to be honest, we'd rather stick with our existing system if that's okay, and you come and do the bookkeeping on our system. Okay, fine, let's put that in there. And what you then do is you hit your fixed price, and it goes away and calculates the price. And after about 5 seconds, it comes up with 3 choices, 3 options: the entry level, the full level, and the premium. And what follows below is a table that's very similar to what you'll have gone through in your brochure listing what's included in the different packages. But this time it's got the prices. And these prices are expressed in dollars, so you can change the currency, whatever country you're in. So we've got one that's 12 payments of $599 right through to 12 payments of $909. You can change all the prices, by the way. There's some default settings you can use, or you can change them. It's entirely up to you. So let's imagine the client really did want to go for the middle level. They've gone to the brochure, they want the middle option, but you reveal it's $787 per month. 2 things can happen. Either they can afford that, and if they say yes, that's great, because you will have set this up to be high in the first place. You'll have got a great price. But if they say, do you know what, that's a bit outside my budget, I can't afford $787, you could offer them the entry level at $599. But perhaps their budget's not even that level. What you could do with the premium version of the software is you could have hidden up your sleeve a 4th cut down light level. So if the price is too high, one option you've got is to offer something else that you don't make public, but if you want to win the business, you could have a hidden 4th light option. I'm going to turn that off. Another thing you can do is using the options button, you can offer discounts, but you should never crash and burn on price. Instead, you swap something. I call them behavior rewards. So we can click on there and we can offer some various discounts for things if they do things to make your life easier. For example, they might decide they might agree to scan all of their purchase invoices using a tool like Receipt Bank, which saves you a ton of time, and they'll then get the price they want. Or the third thing you can do, and you can do all 3 of these things or any combination, is you can go back to your preferences, the original price, and change the answers to the questions. You just work with the client. So you might say to the client this, you might say, well, one of the reasons it's $787, and that's more than what you're currently paying, is because you want us to account for your divisions, which I remember you said you don't have at the moment. Well, that takes quite a bit of extra work. We have to then work out where to post everything to, which of your 3 divisions, your 3 workshops. So if that's not important to you, let's set that to no. So if the client says, yeah, let's not have that then, you can then just hit the button again. And after a few seconds, it recalculates the price. Now it's dropped down from whatever it was, $700 odd to just $687. Now it's getting more affordable. The client might say, great, I can afford that now. Let's go for the full level at $687. Or the client might say, still outside my budget. I was hoping for more like $600. Okay, if that's the case, that's not a problem. We just keep changing things. So we go back here, and this time you might say, well, the reason why it's $687 is because you've got a desktop system. And you remember I talked about the benefits of QBO earlier and how that makes your life easier. What I didn't say at the time was that it actually makes our life easier too. And so if you were to move to QuickBooks Online, and we have a service where we can do that for you, if you move to QuickBooks Online, that also makes our life easier, and we can give you a better price. Would you like to see what the price would be for doing the bookkeeping if we move you onto QuickBooks Online? And of course they'll say yes, so you reprice again. And after a few seconds, It comes up with the price, and now it's gone down to 12 payments of 537. The client says, that's much better. When you first came up with $700 and something, I was a bit worried because I was really excited by working with you, but 537's inside my budget. Where do I sign? And that's the process. So can you see that with a software-based approach, you can price with confidence. You just keep changing the package. You can offer different options. You can ask whatever questions you want to give the precise solution the client wants and tailor it just to their needs. And in the settings behind the scenes, everything can be changed. The wording of the questions, you can add questions, the way they're priced, you can change the way you express the price. So many things in here to make it customizable just for you. Anyway, that's enough of the software for now, because I have one other free gift for you as a thank you for watching this video. I recorded a video training program called A Systems Approach to Value Pricing. And that includes a series of videos where I take some of these concepts into greater detail about value pricing. And I'll also tell you a bit more about how the software works and show you step by step in detail. Not only that, is inside the video training program, there is a voucher code for the software if you want to try it out. And best of all, this video training program I will give to you completely free of charge. So again, somewhere above or below this video, you will find a link where you can get the copy of the software. It will take you to a page that looks just like this. It says purchase offer, but don't worry, no credit card is needed at all, because at the moment it's entirely free as my gift to you. So that's two gifts. Go and grab my free video training and work through that, and make sure you grab your guest offer space on my next mentoring session. But do that soon, because I do expect to sell out. Anyway, I hope you found that valuable. I've really enjoyed sharing with you my secrets for how to price, setting people up on QBO, the 7-step formula, and I wish you every success on your value pricing journey. Goodbye for now.
Wow, Mark, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate you coming on as a guest. Definitely, if you're watching this video, if you watch this episode, consider at least joining 1 month, August. You get a taste for Mark's mentoring program. Just email support@wickersham.co.uk. Just send them an email, mention that you watched the episode, and they'll set you up for, I guess, a free month, the first session, so you can get an idea for what the mentoring program is. Even if you're not ready to join the mentoring program, you can download the free ebook that Mark has published. There's the link right there on the screen. I'll also put it down there together with all the Mark's links, and also the link to watch another video program that's free for the moment called A Systems Approach to Value Pricing. And that's, I believe, it's a couple of hours, and he goes a lot more in depth into this process. So thank you very much, Mark. I'm sure that your mentoring program is great, and I'm sure everything you teach us bookkeepers and accountants is only to help us increase the value we give to our clients. All right, so upcoming episodes for QB Power Hour. Again, it's going to be every other Thursday, or like it always has been. The next episode is going to be July 28th, Common Mistakes in QuickBooks Desktop and Online. We're going to cover both, actually. Common Mistakes in QuickBooks Online and Desktop. That's going to be an ACE course. 2 weeks later, we'll have Advanced QuickBooks Online Tips and Tricks. On 8/25, on August 25, we'll have Job Costing for QuickBooks Desktop Deep Dive. That's also going to be an ACE course. And then in September and October, we'll have a whole bunch of miscellaneous episodes. We're still working on those topics, but somewhere between the end of September, beginning of October, we'll cover the What's New in QuickBooks Desktop 2017, highly anticipated episode, right? The new features. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Join Michelle's LinkedIn group with over 160,000 members called Successful QuickBooks Consultant. Just search that in LinkedIn and you'll find it. And also LinkedIn, the Facebook group. I closely monitor the Facebook group, and let's continue the conversation. Let's discuss, value pricing and success stories. And thank you very much for joining us. Have a wonderful day.